Details. Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Oh man, I'm excited to see everybody jumping on here. We got people jumping in. I love this. Awesome, good stuff. So today we're covering this bad mamma jamma right here, steps 1 through 3 on chapters 1 through 3. And so as you're looking at this, as you're going, today is contract to close, the MREA admin contract to close, and we're covering steps or chapters 1, 2, and 3 today. Now, my goal for today is to kind of actually make this a little bit more laid back. I would like to give you the ability to chat, so definitely jump in here and chat. I've got the chat up. It said didn't get the guide, so if you didn't get the guide, go to kwconnect.com, kwconnect.com, type in the MREA admin, and when you type in MREA admin, what you can actually do is you can actually go in and there we go. All right, you can actually go in and print it all from KW Connect, and so KW Connect will have all of that on there. And I'll actually email it out as well, just so everybody has a copy of it. So as you're looking at this, as the older Keller Williams courses, KW courses always started with that 411, and we've talked about this a little bit before. We talked about the 411. And so, apologize for my voice today. It's been a little bit of a challenge. I've already had one coaching call that I've led this morning, and after 2 days of bold as well. So my voice will get a rest this weekend. And so as we're looking at this, and you talk about the 411, creating an effective 411. All the old Keller Williams courses, talked about the 411. And so as we're looking at the 411. Just to kind of give you an idea, and if anybody has any questions or needs anything, has any statements throughout this participation, definitely feel free to type it into the chat window, type it out into the chat window, and we'll get all those questions answered by the end of this time frame here. So when we're looking at the 411, a lot of times I know on admins, it's a little bit more of a challenge for admins to fill out the 411, because there's not like a sales goal that we got each week, those kind of things. And so, one of the things that you've got here is you're looking at the 411, you've got your annual goals, the annual goals for you as an admin. So right now, that annual goal may be actually to actually go in there and actually implement and create a full operations manual over the year. And so we break that down, and then you've also got your job piece on there as well. So you've got personal job for this year of 2017. You could do it on a 12-month period, however you're going to plan it, and then you're going to break that down by 12 different months. And then from there, you're going to break that down into weekly goals. And then, so whatever that came out on a monthly basis, you're going to divide it by 4 so that you can come up with that. What are some things that you can put in your annual job description? We talked about 1, creating that operations manual. 2, you can actually create, when you look at the 5 big rocks. We talked about this actually on yesterday. I did a MREA review for the book mastermind that we've got going on as well. And so that book mastermind, we actually talked about the 5 big rocks of an admin. And so I'd like to kind of, keep this in a participatory class. So in the chat room, we've talked about this in the additional steps. What are some of the 5 big rocks that you can think of for the MREA admin? So whether you're a closing coordinator, an EA, what are some of the 5 big rocks that you've got as an admin? Just type them into the chat window. Maintain the database. Ladies and gentlemen, that is rule number 1. That is job number 1. Marketing, database for sure, same. Yep. All right. How about customer service? How about customer service and making sure that you're maintaining a customer service level? Are you tracking a customer service level? Ooh, think about it. So as you're looking at this, are you tracking a customer service level? Are you doing a survey? Are you doing a survey after your agent does the buyer's agency agreement or after your agent does a listing agreement? Are you doing a survey once they've gone under contract? Are you doing a survey? Are you doing a survey once they are going through the process of contract to close? And then are you doing a survey again? Are you doing a survey again at the closing? See, because here's the thing. You'd have one thing that happened at the closing that was not your agent's fault, not your closing coordinator's fault, not your admin's fault, and it would completely change the survey for every step of the process, because the only thing that remembered in their mind was the last thing that happened. So you can actually do a survey all the way through the process. So customer service would be something that you could actually put on there. Anybody else have anything on that you can type into the chat window? Fill your bench. Oh, yes, I love that. As the EA, the executive assistant, your job is to fill the bench, right? You got to fill the bench with all your admin talent. So who are you placing on your bench? Because once you hire, if you're the only executive assistant admin on the team, then guess what? You are the one that's supposed to hire every additional admin on that team. And so you got to make sure that you're building a bench for your talent as well. Contract to close. Yeah, contract to close. How many deadlines, how many fall aparts, all those things. So like how many you could track, how many you got to close on time, how many of your deals close on time, how many of your deals fall apart, what's your fallout rate? And so as you're looking at your fallout rate, are you tracking all that stuff? You go, man, J. Michael, that's a lot to track. No, I completely understand. And yet, when we're tracking these matrix each time, what you're doing is you're actually getting stuff that you can actually hit, a goal that you can actually hit, that you can actually kind of turn around and put on your 411. The squeaky wheel for appointments needed, the CGI. Man, I'm going to tell you, John Davis, our CEO of Keller Williams, rocked my world at Mega Relief this past week. He actually said, hey, instead of talking about, the CGI and talking about all the numbers, he goes, we're still going to talk about the numbers. And yet he said, we need to remember that each one of those numbers, even though it's just a number, he goes, it's not just a number. It represents a story. It represents a story. And when it represents a story, he goes, when we're hiring people, there's a CGI there for hiring people on how to make sure that we get them into production and in talent mode as quickly as possible. And he said, number one is that you got to have leadership. Once you have leadership, you've got to teach them. You got to teach them. So the second part of that would be to teach them. And then you've got your wall of value. And the third part of that is coaching, right? And then the fourth part of that is abundance. And he said, I love using the word abundance instead of profit, because that's all profit is abundance. It means that we've paid all the bills. We've done enough. We've got all the money. We've paid all the bills from the money, and there's still some left over. That's abundance. And that's all profit is abundance. And we wouldn't have been able to have Mega Relief this last week. Those agents that took time away from their families, agents that took time away from their business to come in and spend at a hotel and to be there at Mega Relief, those agents would not have been able to do it without abundance. And so instead of using the word profit, in that for CGI, there's 4 boxes on the CGI, actually using that as an abundance instead of profit. So I loved that piece. All right. So call schedules for agents. Yes. Right. Do you have your call schedules prepared for your agents so that as soon as they come in, they are ready to roll? And so you have to watch that. So customer service, that's the one that I hit on. And so customer service on page number 13 of the role of the transaction coordinator for the MREA contract to close, MREA admin contract to close, we're going to talk about customer service. And on the bottom of this page, I love these things that we know how to say things. And so we teach these in bold. A lot of these scripts we've taught in bold, and a lot of these openings we've taught in bold. And so in the scripts that we use. And so like the agents are learning some of these, yet on the admin side, are we truly learning some of the phrases that we can use to kind of build that customer service level? So I love the ones, and this was written back in 2004, and it says, it's my pleasure. I'm not even sure if Chick-fil-A was saying my pleasure back then. Yet I will tell you, it's something that Diana Kokoska has taught us as MAPS coaches. to say it's my pleasure, and instead of saying you're welcome, saying it's my pleasure, because it changes the energy. It changes the energy of the call, and the person on the other end actually hears it, and so it's pretty cool. So anytime you're hanging up the phone, or they say thank you, you would say my pleasure is a great tool. Great. Another one that we say is I can appreciate how you feel. Ooh, I can appreciate how you feel. Now, who wouldn't like that when you're having a conversation, and let's say the other person's, in a huge emotional realm in that situation, and so as you're looking at that, you're saying, I can appreciate how you feel, and it allows them not. It doesn't say you're right and that we're wrong. What it actually does is it allows them to. It's an empathy piece where it allows you to take on their emotions, and then they truly feel heard when you say that. Another one. I understand how you feel, and if I were in your position, I would probably say the same thing or be doing or feel the same way. Pair that. Somebody wrote in. Pair that with I hear what you're saying. Now, here's the thing. Watch when you say, I hear what you're saying, because there may not be enough empathy in that comment. So just watch that. And that comment will work. Just make sure that you're got that empathy with that as well. So we can't find the MREA documents on it's in KW Connect, in the new KW Connect. So you have to go into the actual kwconnect.com and pull it up. It's the one login through KW. I love this one, and this is the one, we teach agents a lot of this. It's called the feel, felt, found. I can understand how you can feel that way. If I was in your situation, I'd feel the exact same way, yet here's what I found. And so can you please tell me why you would feel that way is another one. I just saying I understand. I had a call that I had to do with one of our clients on my team, and they're just really having a challenge with one of my agents. My agent was doing everything that they could to actually get everything, the situation calmed down, those kind of things. And we ended up firing the client. They were just not being realistic. And so they were actually costing us more money because we were spending a lot of time on that. And so what we actually did is we went in and fired the client. And I told the agent, said, you got my permission to fire the client. So they fired him. And so when they fired him, awesome. Thank you so much, Heather, for doing that. I greatly appreciate that. And so when we fired him, they got really upset because another agent from another company had fired them, and also a commercial agent had fired them as well. And so when we fired them, they hit the ceiling. And so at that point, it's my job to step in and control the situation and control that. And so what we did is we actually said, I listened to him and said, hey, this is J. Michael Manley. I understand we've got a challenge. And so I'm just here to listen, to understand fully what the challenge is. And so for the next 22 minutes, they went off. I didn't say anything except, oh yeah, I completely understand. Yes, I understand. And that was it. And so from there, what I actually did was at the end of the call, when he was finished, I asked him, I said, what can I do to make you whole? And in all honesty, he came back and he said, there's not anything you can do to make me whole. I needed to get this off my chest. And so that was the cool part, was that he just wanted somebody to complain to and just listen to him. And so I didn't, do my best to change him, didn't do anything to change his opinion. I just listened, and he knew that I had empathy for his situation. So I'd ask, kind of chapter 1, customer service, and 411, I would ask you on a scale of 1 to 10 with a scorecard, customer service level, handling challenges, making sure that they don't get to the mega agent. Guess what? Because when challenges get to the mega agent, it starts to affect with their mind. And when it affects with their mind, then they have a challenge operating at the highest level. And then they stop getting listings. They stop working with buyers. And so, because then they're like, I got a problem I got to fix. So they're focused on the problem and not the plan. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself? Don't put it in the chat window. You don't have to do that. I'm not asking to put anybody on the spot or anything. Yet I would ask you to reflect this week. What is it that you would rate yourself? All right. So now we're on to chapter 2. chapter 2, the overview here, as we're looking at the overview, number one thing we got to do as a contract to close admin is you got to review that file. See, here's the thing is that the admin, I remember when I first, when I hired my first admin, which was my mom, I would turn in paperwork to the office, and before I hired my mom, I would turn in paperwork to the office. Oh, and I would get what we called at that point love notes back from the broker in charge. It'd be this long list of things that I had forgotten to put on the paperwork. Now, I could have sworn I did it all. I got it all done. Every I, every T was dotted. Every I was, every I was dotted. Every T was crossed. And I could have swore I had it done 100% without fail. And inevitably, every time I turn a contract, it would come back and I had not done it to the best of my ability. And so what I ended up doing is when I hired my mom, I would turn in paperwork to my mom, and my mom would actually get it cleaned up. So my EA would get my paperwork cleaned up before she submitted it to the office. So the office thought I was doing great, and really it was actually my admin going in and cleaning up my paperwork. And so it got to the point where she actually would go through the contract, and as she would pre-fill out the contract for me, she started pre-filling it out, which we talked about in the previous class, going in with pre-filled contracts, filling out those contracts for your mega agents, for your buyer's agents, and your listing specialists. And then at the bottom, everywhere that the seller was supposed to sign, if there were 2 sellers, she would highlight both blocks for the seller to initial. If there were 1 seller, she would highlight 1 block. And so all I had to do is at the end, she said, before you leave the house, go through every piece of paperwork, line it all up, and just fold it over, and just check every single place that's highlighted to make sure that you got a dot in it. And so that's where, her contract review really got to another level, was because at that point she knew that the contract was initialed. She had actually put a system in place to make sure that I was doing my part of the job, so that she didn't have to go and backtrack everything that I was doing. And make sure you got your contract, make sure you got any required addendums, any additional addendums that may be on the contract, seller's disclosure, make sure you got a seller's disclosure in there. You've got your lender approval letter. So that's a big piece as a contract to close agent. You need to make sure that you've got your actual lender approval in there. Who's the lender you're going to call to follow up during this process if you don't have that actual lender? Any checks for earnest money, make sure you got copies of those. If the agent has turned them in on their own, make sure you got copies of those. And then going on through that process, surveys, anything like that you may have as well that we attach to the contract. And so what you need to do is you need to create a checklist of all the things that your state requires. So you may have an agency disclosure brochure that actually requires a signature. And if you've got it, so if you're an agency state, require that signature on there, you may actually have to have that in your checklist. So do you actually have a checklist for every single piece of paperwork that's supposed to be included in the actual contract folder? And that's the very first place we need to start. This is when we're getting purposeful. You can say, well, no, I just know what needs to go in there. Well, as you get busy, you got 20 files on your desk, 25 files, 30 files. In our state, about the maximum that we found that's been able to do without an assistant would be about 30 files. And that's with the agent actually doing all their negotiations on repairs and not the admin. And so as you're looking at that, make sure that you've got a checklist, that you're not just doing this entrepreneurially. Because see, the next person coming behind you, they may not know everything. You may get sick and you need somebody to come in for a day and fill in for you. Contract gets turned in, and guess what? When you come back, they're going to be stacked up on your desk, and you're going to be behind. You're going to be behind your deadlines. And so if you got a contract, and you got a folder, or if you're in .loop and you've got something, a checklist there on .loop, you can actually do a checklist right there on .loop and actually pull all of that together. So think about that. Make sure that you've got that. Now, the next thing is you got a form. Do you have a form? This form that's called, and actually, if you click on that link for that Heather is actually included in the chat window, if you click on that link, there's actually going to be forms there for you as well. There should be a scorecard, the actual manual, and then there should also be forms, a forms addendum in there, and have all the forms for you as well. There's actually a party to sell. This is where you would actually place this. And some of you may be doing this online. and that's okay. Remember, this information was written back in 2004, and so it wasn't really online. You know, we had Top Producer back then, yet Top Producer, you know, many people aren't using Top Producer anymore, or some people still are and use it to the highest of levels, and there's tons of products out there that you can use. Yeah, make sure that you've got one spot that you can grab with ease, one spot that you can get to with ease that has all the parties for the contract to sell. So that this would be a seller, it'd be the buyer, if depending on what side, it may be the co-op agent, it would be the lender, the lender's processor, the lender's admin, the attorney, the paralegal, the home inspector, and whoever's doing any of the repairs. Make sure you got one sheet that has all of that. And we actually give you a copy of this. It's on page number 19 in the manual. You can see it's one sheet. Now, can you do this online? Absolutely, you could do this online. You could do a Google form and populate it into an Excel spreadsheet. And so you would have an Excel spreadsheet that would be, or a Google spreadsheet that would be right there. So you could actually do a Google form, put all these things on there, type them out as they come in. Now you've got every bit of this information on a Google sheet. And so that when you need to pull somebody, you can actually go right there onto that Google sheet and you have every contact information you need for that address for that contract to close. So if you don't like to use forms, you go, I'm paperless. A Google form is a great place to enter this information. Now, the next piece of this is where on page number 20 right now, page number 20. And let me stop right here. How many people are using something similar to this? Whether it's online or you're using a paper document, and that's the parties to the sale. Just put it in the chat window if you're using this or if you're not using something similar to this. So Heather says yes. I said yes, we use paper. Yes, yes, yes. Will you do that in Brivity? Perfect. Brivity is a great piece. You can do that in there. So some good stuff in there. All right. So anyone else, any other ideas? How are you using Google Contacts coded to each client? Yeah, I love that. I love that piece. All right, because you can go in there and tag them and you put them in groups and those kind of things. You can actually have a group in Google that was just for that contract, so that in that group, that contact group, it would have every single person that would be a party to that address. That's similar to what Folio, there was a company out there doing called Folio. Folio's kind of does it automatically, and it's not 100% accurate. I have found, yet some people may be able to use Folio. We have paper forms for all the contracts in addition to being in Brivity and .loop. Okay, so Laughlin Real Estate says that they adore Folio. Revolve is another piece that you could use that put all this in there. So they've actually gotten Folio and using Folio at a high level. All right. So the next thing you got is your contract worksheet, completing the form on your contract worksheet. This is on page number 21 in the actual manual for today. And so as you're looking at this, it has the dates. Now, most of you are probably using your same, if you're using a system, Brivity, Google Contacts, Google Forms, or .loop or Brivity, probably not Folio, putting dates in Folio. Yet you can actually see here, it actually has all the pertinent information from the contract. So you got the agent, the transaction, you've got representing who you're representing. You're representing as a condo, resale, new construction. Why would we need that if it was a new construction, a condo, or a resale? Because see, we may have a different contract to close process, a different flow chart for each one of those. Because see, if it's a condo, what do you need to have? You got to have the condo questionnaire. So who's got the condo questionnaire? Who's actually maintaining the contract, the main condo questionnaire, and what's it cost? I've seen them cost now upwards of $150 to get a condo questionnaire filled out. I love that there was one Movement mortgage company in Lake of the Ozarks. They've got tons of condos that are unwarrantable condos and some that are warrantable condos. And so they've actually gone through, and every condo project, they have a condo questionnaire already done for that. They're paying for it up front, and they've got all that information. And so they've got it, and they're good for 6 months, and they're just getting a new one every 6 months. So they have to get it pulled twice a year to get a condo questionnaire. Are you being that purposeful, ladies and gentlemen, on all of your documents? And so you got the address, contract, effective date of the contract, contract receipt, who received it, possession date, settlement closing date, the blue sheets turned into KWMC, the DA close. That's the green sheets that we're talking about on that. Seller's disclosure, seller's closing packet sent, buyer closing packet sent, and then the info entered into the contact database. We've talked a lot about in the previous managing the MREA office. We talked about a lot of managing the contact system, the database. In this course, they call it the CMS, and it's basically just making sure that if you've got a seller or you're getting a new address, putting it in there. When we talk about the MREA operations manual in a future class, and we go through there, there's going to be a form in there called the VIP questionnaire. And the VIP questionnaire, are you making sure as the contract close coordinator, are you getting that information back? Are you getting that VIP questionnaire back? Some pretty powerful information in that it has all of the kids' names, has the kids' birthday. So now you can actually send the kids a birthday card from the team with everybody's signature in it. You can even do like a cupcake, or get a cupcake on your birthday type thing from Gigi's Cupcakes. And then you'll see what else you could put in there. What else is on there? It has the spouse's favorite restaurant, their favorite flower, and their favorite color. So now you can actually send, as a contract to close coordinator, if you're maintaining the database, you put all that stuff in the database. What pops up for the agent, a week out from the husband's anniversary, agent picks up the phone and calls the husband and says, hey, just want to remind you, your anniversary is coming up in 1 week. And oh, by the way, your wife's favorite restaurant is El Jalisco or Ruth's Chris or whatever. And then from there, and don't forget her favorite flower is daisies, pansies, whatever. I don't know. And so you got a way by putting that VIP questionnaire form and getting all that information after the closing into the CMS or the database. Then at that point, you're building a career, you're building a legacy worth leaving and a career worth having, in all honesty, because now you're building a database or a data bank, and that's how you're turning that over to your agents. Next thing is green sheets, and we got tons of stuff on the green sheet. I feel pretty comfortable. I'm not going to go through the green sheet on here. I feel pretty comfortable that all of you are covering the green sheet. You all have a green sheet filled out. And so contract to close, the only thing I would say we've got all of these pages, is that if you have a blank that you don't understand, so like right here, it says brokerage company and it gives a definition for it. This may be great to put into your training program for a new contract to close person, so that they know what every single field in that electronic green sheet goes for. And I thought that was pretty powerful, because you can actually take all of these pages right here, and it will give you the definition for the entire green sheet of who is who and what it actually means. So any questions about the green sheet? Does anybody have any questions about the green sheet on there? If you do, put it in the chat window, and we can actually go through that. Going once. Going twice. All right, so we're going to move on. The DA close, the sheet, the sheet that comes from the market center that's attached to the checks when you get your checks, that shows the breakdown of all the numbers and how everybody was paid and those kind of things. Some market centers do it where have everybody on the same sheet. Some of them give them different sheets. Some of them keep them on individual sheets. Yeah, that's the DA close. And so the DA close means that you're getting ready to get paid. When you see that email coming through .loop, everything's been DA closed, means your check's getting ready to come. All right, so now we're on to chapter 3. And chapter 3 is about communication. How do we communicate with the co-oping agent? How do we communicate with the closing company? How do we communicate with the lender? How do we communicate with the client? And then any of vendors that we're using as well. And so chapter 3, and this is why we actually broke this one down in 3 chapters, is that you've got a little piece of this all across the spot. So as soon as you get that contract, the first thing that you need to do, and I suggest doing it via phone, via text, and via email. All right, I suggest doing it all 3. I'm going to start with the phone. So I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call the other agent. And we'll say, hey, At the end, can you please resend the link? Yeah. So I'll resend it in an email that will connect to this video. So I'll send out the link for all of that so that you'll have all those pieces on there, so that nobody gets missed out. As I know there were some people that couldn't attend today. They already had some stuff that they had to do. And so what we'll do is we'll send out the link to this video and the link for this entire packet as well. Because in all honesty, this is your 30, 60, 90 for your closing coordinator. Pretty powerful right there. So when you're cooperating agents, you want to go reach out to them as soon as you get the folder. That day, do not wait an additional day. Because what you might hear is that your agent may have forgotten an addendum that didn't turn into you and the other agent still got it. You know, you're gonna pick up on some key pieces there. So that making sure that you're not missing any of the pieces. So number one, communicate to the other agent that you are to be CC'd on all emails, and that, you know, or they can email them to you and CC your mega or your agent, so that you're not missing out on all the emails. All right, let them know that you're there to support them and make this a smooth closing. Make sure that you know. And then the key is that you gotta make sure that they understand that you are the go-to person. See, a lot of times when they email the mega or your buyer's agent or your listing specialist, they may email them in the morning, and that agent's like, I don't have time to deal with that right now. I got to go get new clients. So let them know that the fastest way to get an answer for something is to respond to you. And I guarantee you, when you tell them that the fastest way to get an answer is to respond to you, I have a feeling that that's going to increase that they come to you instead of going to the agent. And that'll take all that pressure off of the agent. Number two, initiating the contract. When you're initiating the contract, you know, with the closing agent, many of y'all may work in states that have title companies. We're an attorney-only state here in South Carolina, and so we have attorneys. You may be in a situation where you have got title agencies. Make sure that you've got all the information over to them, and so that you're going to need another checklist. You're like, oh, Jay, I go checklist. Here's the thing. Checklists keep you entrepreneurial. It's when you're running 90 miles an hour, 110 miles an hour, and you've got that checklist and you're using the checklist every single day and not intending to remember it all. That's what allows you to be so purposeful that you can handle 30, 40 transactions as a contract to close agent. And so as you're looking at this, what are some things that you need to get to the attorney, get over to the title company? Well, here's the settlement form, and this will be in the forms packet as well. It's actually got it in here, and you could put together a form that you could send over. I love that when you're going through this book, it actually says to fax it over to them. I can't tell you when the last time I had faxed anything, and yet you can email it over to them. You can scan it into them, or you can do a Google form and send it to them, that kind of thing as well. So as you're looking at this settlement summary for the escrow, so you got settlement company, who's the attention, so who's the paralegal that's actually going to be working on that, or the closer at the closing company that's going to be working on that. And so then you've got the property, the seller's name, the seller's social security number. Now, watch this one. I don't personally like putting the seller's social security number on anything, and we've gotten away from that. Our old contracts used to have the social security number in the actual contract so that they could call and get the payoff. And so we've kind of gotten away from that as an industry, and so I greatly appreciate that, because the last thing that I desire to have floating around my office is somebody's social security numbers. The date of the settlement, it's got the any special earnest money instructions, termite inspections will be done by. One thing that we've done in this office, in my office, is that we have a escrow account because we're required by law, yet our office doesn't keep any escrow money. It all goes to the attorney. And so the attorneys are handling the escrow money, so that, because the attorney has the ability to disperse earnest money without everybody signing off on it. When that money is in our escrow account as real estate agents, we are not allowed to disperse it until there's been a release of contract here in my office. And so if we got two parties battling back and forth, the attorney could actually make the decision in their escrow account to release it to either other party, whoever they believe deserves it, and then fight about it. So we kind of took that responsibility off of the office. Transaction fees, bonuses, home warranty, who's paying the home warranty, post-settlement agreement for rent, any of that kind of stuff, lender agreement, the payoff, seller qualifies for short-term lease, reissue rate, anything like that. If the seller is seller's buying it, maybe if they're doing a refinance, one of your clients is doing a refinance and you're kind of helping them through that process, they can actually get their title insurance can be transferred over, so they don't have to do a redraw fee on those kind of things and save a little bit of money on that. So there's a lot that can be done on there. Now, how often are you going to follow up with the settlement company? All right, according to the book, how often would you follow up with the settlement company? And it's actually on page number 39. And it tells you, follow up on the title process weekly. As you get closer to the end, I would follow up every 3 days so that you make sure that you're on top of any challenges before they arise. Because a lot of times title companies and the attorney companies, especially here in South Carolina, the attorneys will call the client and not call us first. And so if we're constantly calling them weekly, and as we're getting closer to the end of the agreement, before the close date, actually calling the attorney more often so that we can actually stay on top of it, we may be able to circumvent any challenges or at least buffer them before they get to the sellers, and then put them in our tonality versus the attorneys or the title company's tonality sometimes. Now, as you're scanning in your files to the closing company, because the closing company is going to need your contract and the addendums, those kind of things. As you're scanning those in, here's a checklist. Here's a checklist that you can make sure that you've got them all. Where's this checklist going to come from? Well, this checklist is going to come from you when you originally did your checklist as soon as you received your folder. Okay, so now you know that you've sent them all the documents that you've got access to. Preliminary title report. I'm not personally familiar with title companies because we do have attorneys here. And so, that would be something that you've got payoffs, you've got homeowners insurance or homeowners associations, who's the contact for the homeowners association, any other changes or charges that may be on there, making sure that you're getting all of that over there. For the big thing for us in South Carolina is making sure that the attorney has all of the invoices from all of the repairs and making sure that we're getting all of those, and every single one of them is included on the actual form. We've had some situations over the years, not many, yet a few, where the attorney had missed something, didn't put it on the closing statement, and then 60 days later they get a past due notice, and when they get a past due notice, say, I thought this was paid. No, it was not on your HUD statement, so you do still owe it, and that creates some challenges. I've even had to pay for a few invoices because just to maintain relationships, because it's always cheaper to pay the invoice than to lose the referral. So remember that. Your lenders. Next is lenders. All right. So when you're looking at your introductory letter to your lender, you're looking up your introductory letter to your lender. How often? I love that it says fax this over. Nobody is. I don't think anybody's using a fax. I mean, like they've went Office Space on the fax machines. All right. Some of you got that. Some of you may not have. All right. So as you're looking at this introductory letter, some of the things that are included on there, loan processor is letting you know who the closing coordinator is, who the mega agent is that they're actually working with, who the agent is. It's got some deadlines, some effective dates, the loan deadline. Here's the big one. Here's the big one that you need to really kind of work on. The big one that you need to work on is that you need to be working on the deadlines. By when do they need to have their application in? So like our contract has a deadline in it for the application to be made. It also has a deadline in it for title commitment. And so do the lenders know that those are the dates that they're hitting? Because if they miss them, technically speaking, we would need an addendum on that. All right, let's see here. File status update is the lender status update. It's just making sure that you have a checklist, making sure that you've got a checklist. And as you're going through that checklist, as you're going through that checklist, what you're looking for is you're looking for your milestones in your checklist. And this is your update so that you've got that. A lot of the title companies, a lot of the attorneys now have an app that they're using or something like that, so that they can actually send you messages. Hey, I've gotten loan commitment. Hey, we've gone to underwriting. Hey, we've got the appraisals back. We're good. So they're notifying you. A lot of the companies are doing that now. Yet now this is a way that you can track. And I would follow up with the lender. I'd follow up with the lender weekly to start off with, and then as you're getting closer, because remember, you go through. This is what the clients are seeing on the back end. Clients are seeing, man, we're so excited. We got all this done. We've got a house. Then you go through the inspection process. And so there's a lot of working back and forth together on the inspection process. And once you work through on the inspection process, then you negotiate the repairs. And once you've negotiated the repairs, still tons of communication on that front end. As soon as repairs are negotiated, boom, our communication drops. And so the client thinking, man, everything's on easy street. We've got this. Everything's good to go. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're getting towards the end. We're a week out from closing. And now when we're a week out from closing, the lender's constantly pounding them, asking, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And so prepare them for that last week of before closing, that the lender's going to come back to them for multiple items over and over things. Now, page number 47. It's a really good piece on this. And so, know what the difference between the loan processor and the loan originator is. The loan originator, they're the kind of the broker. The loan processor, they are the admin behind the scenes. So bring this to the terms of a mega agent. The loan broker, the loan originator, they are actually the agent. And then the processor, they would actually be the admin behind the scenes, making sure everything's done and all the I's and T's are dotted and crossed. If you can get to the processor, ladies and gentlemen, through this process, you will have a lot more information. You'll be a lot more informed than to work through the actual originator, the actual agent. That processor is there for a reason. They take all of the stuff just like the admins do in the mega agent scenario. They take all of that off. They're handling, they're making sure all the I's and T's are dotted, chasing paperwork, those kind of things. So if you can get to the processor, then just the loan originator, you are so much better off. All right, so client, initiating contact. As soon as you get the client file, as soon as you've reached out to the co-op agent, as soon as you've reached out to the other agent or to the attorney or the title company and you've reached out to the lender, you also that same day need to be reaching out to the client. I know it's backwards. And so, yeah, you need to be reaching out to the client. As you're reaching out to the client, here's the thing. How many you got to ask, how often and how do they like to be corresponded with? If we're not asking that question, I think we're missing out on the customer service. So, when they say, well, I'll be able to respond quicker via text. Fantastic. So send them a text and then follow up with an email. If they say, I prefer a phone call, then great. Give them a phone call, discuss everything with them, and then send them in an email. All right. So yes, this is being recorded. We'll get it out to everybody. All right. So make sure that you're communicating with everything. I hope everything's going well in that client emergency you've got there. So as you're looking at the client, buyer and seller introductory letter, ladies and gentlemen, in today's age, the letter is not fast enough. You got to pick up the phone. You got to shoot them a text, depending on the best way. The first time you pick up the phone, you call the client, and then you ask them what's the best way to communicate with you, and they may tell you text. And so if they tell you text, then fantastic. Shoot them a text and then follow up with what you followed up in the text via email, so that there's an email track record for every single thing. Text may not, like I have my text, they only save for 30 days. So after 30 days, those texts go away and I don't have access to them again. So if you follow up with everything via an email, if anything ever happened, you got called into court, got called into, litigation or mediation for any of that, as long as you followed up every single time via email and discuss what you told them in the text message, you're going to be great. because then you got a backup of everything. Copy of the contract, closing department. Make sure the sellers have a copy of the contract. Make sure that the closing department, if you've got a newsletter, it talks about putting together a newsletter for that, for the closing department, which I think is pretty cool, right? How many people have, I know mega agents that they're having a challenge just getting newsletters out for their team, let alone the actual contract to close, having their own newsletter for people that are going through the process. I love that idea. Best ways to communicate, service providers list, and then also a self-addressed stamped envelope. I love this for the best ways to communicate. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot do that in today's day and age. Is just too slow. It's called snail mail for a reason. Large envelope marked urgent. This is where they can put anything in them business cards. You're going to do most of this on the phone, be entering it into the database as you're going through. Now, can you still send a letter? Absolutely. I would actually send them a letter. And then how many times have you had a client call and say, hey, I need my contract? And you say, well, it's in .loop. So I completely appreciate that. So here's the thing. Send a physical letter and a physical contract back to the sellers after you've already contacted them and told them everything's in .loop, because I can guarantee you they're not logging back into .loop except for when you send them a piece of paper to actually sign. And so some questions to ask when you're actually contacting them and the ways that they like to communicate. During the day, what's the best way to contact you? Home phone number, work phone number, cell phone number, pager, email. All right. Now, are we going to change that? We're not going to put pager in there. Nobody has a pager. I don't even know if you can buy a pager anymore. Yet what you're going to do is you're going to say text, right? So home phone, some people still have that. Work phone, some people still have that. Cell phone or text or email. You may even add some nowadays. You may say Facebook Messenger, however, whatever ways that you would like to communicate, whatever way that they would like to communicate, make sure that you know that. If we need to call you at work, what hours of day do you work? There's nothing that fascinates me more than asking an agent or asking an admin saying, well, where they work, and they not know where a client works. To me, that's just unfathomable. How are we selling somebody a $250,000 house, or in some of y'all's locations, a $500,000 house or $1 million house, and we don't even know where our clients work? See, that's when we start talking about they might just be a number to you and not an actual story, not an actual life that you're helping create a dream. You're actually because you got a young couple getting married, ladies and gentlemen. The things that we do when we got a young couple getting married, we're the ones helping them start that life in that house that they're going to create all of their memories in. Those birthdays are going to be there. They're going to bring their first child home and be in that house. That's going to be the house. As they get older, they'll drive. They come back into town. If they've moved out, they'll come back to town. They'll drive through that house. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, is what we do as real estate agents and as admins and mega agent teams. And so we got to realize that we got to make this as special for them as possible, because we don't sell homes, ladies and gentlemen. We sell lifestyles, and that's what we do. And so this is a lifestyle. They're going to be bringing their child if they're empty nesters or they're becoming empty nesters and all the kids are at college. We're giving them that home to retire in. That may be downsizing, that's got less space. And so we're actually helping them, create a retirement that they actually enjoy, because they're not spending, 2 hours or 3 hours every Saturday cutting the grass. They're now moving into a townhome where somebody else cuts the grass for them. And so they can actually go to the lake or the beach every weekend, or they can go see their grandkids. And so we're creating stories for people. Now, if you have an affiliated business arrangement, I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you need to make sure that you've got this form. It's affiliated business arrangement form. Have your attorney a respite attorney look over this as well. And it lets the client know that, hey, I've got an affiliated business agreement with XYZ Mortgage Company, and here's what they pay us. even if it's for advertisement, at least you're letting your clients know up front, so that if RESPA ever did come in, they signed off, they knew about it. You're not hiding anything. Additional buyers information's on another form. Oh, love all these forms. You can take all these forms and put them in Google form, right? And they'll populate to an Excel spreadsheet or Google spreadsheet for you. So termite inspection notification, home inspection, when's it initialed by? Termite inspection, when's it initialed by? Keller Williams Realty order, or are the buyers waiving the right for a home inspection? We have this form, we use this form. Ours looks slightly different in that we actually ask them who they're gonna choose. So Google Forms does require a Google Suite. Everybody with Keller Williams has a Google Suite through the Google Apps through Keller Williams. If you're not with Keller Williams, yes, it would require a full Google Suite, which is I think $5 per user. I did get an email last week that they are going to start charging. Google's going to start charging taxes on those Google App Suites now as well, and so. As a Keller Williams agent, when you log into your KW email address, you've got 9 boxes right there in your KW email address, and you've got your Google Suite right there in those Google Forms. All right. So what we put on there is the agent or the seller, they have to choose. We give them 3, and they have to choose which inspection company they'd like to use. We give them 3 attorneys. They have to choose the attorney that they'd like to use. We give them 3 loan officers, and they have three that they can choose, or they can use their own. Actually has a spot for them to fill in their own on there as well. Also request if we have permission to order those on behalf of the buyers. So when we're ordering inspections, they give us permission to order them on behalf of the buyers, and it actually says that the buyers are still responsible for the home inspection. That we're not. It was a really cool part as I was preparing is that we got to watch when we're ordering home inspections, because if we order the home inspections, who's ultimately responsible for it? If we order it and they say, well, the client comes back and said, well, they didn't give us a choice, they just told us who to use. Or well, we didn't order that. You ordered that. We didn't want a home inspection. And so we actually have it on there that they waive the inspection as well. So they have to fill this out, and we have this form created in .loop, and they sign this form in .loop for us. And so if you have .loop teams, that's another thing to think about too. .loop has a team platform. It does cost some money. I mean, it's like, I think $212 a month. Yet you can have all your agents and your admins only have to log in one time. They log into their own .loop account, and they can see all the agents. Yet the agents can't see the individual agents. Only the admins can see the individual agents. So if you're in a state that allows designated agency between teams, now the agents can't see the other agents' forms. Only the admin can see the other agents' forms. Just a little bit of a protection there. And what we found is I was losing more per hour for my admins logging out and having to log back in to actually go through that piece. I was losing more per hour than I was actually gaining by having them just do one login or paying for .loop teams with one login. Buyer's estimated charges, your attorney or your lenders are taking care of that in the fact that they're giving them let's completely draw a blank on that. They're giving them not the HUD 1, that's at the end, yet they're giving them their estimates up front with everything that it's going to charge on there. And so you can have your clients send you that, and then you can go through it with them with your clients as well. Yet keep it simple. Don't go too into depth. We actually have this in a Google form that we use in an Excel spreadsheet that we use that we're doing for all of our net sheets. There's some apps out there that do it. I know some of the title companies have some net sheets that you can use now. Everything that needs to go in your buyer form, it's a full-on checklist right here. Left side, even how, like if you're using an actual folder, what goes on the left side, what goes in the middle section, what goes on the right side of it. Some really cool stuff. Seller folders on here. Most of us are keeping this stuff in .loop now, so I'm not going to go too far into depth on that. And then vendors. Some of our vendors, you've got attorneys, you've got title companies, you've got home inspectors, you've got contractors, you've got mold inspectors, you've got mold remediators, you've got all these people that are going to be privy to the contract. Do you have access? Do you have access that with a one click or with pulling one piece of paper, do you have access to everybody that you would need to communicate on that form? And see, that what we find is that when you have to watch this in electronic versions, is that you may have to go 3, 4, 5 different places to actually pull all this information into one. And so if you have to go 3 or 4 or 5 different places, you're spending too much time, wasting too much time on that. And so what you would need to do is maybe have a form for every one of your folders that you've got electronically filed in .loop that has every single contact of every single person. You add a new person to that folder, you have to get a mold remediator out there who they end up using. You can just write it on the form so that now when somebody calls you and says, hey, I need an invoice for the mold remediator, you can just pull out that piece of paper and say, here's the number, I'll call them right now and I'll get that sent over to you. So we've gone through chapter 3, all the way through chapter 3, and we've covered a pretty large section of this. Next week, we're covering 3 more chapters as well of this contract to close. We're going to cover in the tracking and tracking through the loan process, the inspections, all of that. And so we'll cover through all of that. I think it's, let me make sure. Actually, chapter 4 is all we're covering next week. Chapter 4 is all we're covering next week. And so if you have any questions or anything, I'd like to open it up. We got about 3 minutes here before we have to jump off. I'd like to open this up for anybody that has any questions in anything that we covered today in the MREA admin contract to close. Anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? Just put it in the chat window. Going once? Going twice? Okay, what I'd like to ask now is, what is an aha? What's an aha that you've got from the class today? What's an aha that you, as we were going through these first 3 chapters, what's an aha you got from today? Got several people on the call, so as a bold coach, we say, how you participate in here is how you participate everywhere. So I can access Google Forms. That's a great one, right? So yeah, and so yeah, you've got a lot of that stuff. I didn't realize that all this information was available to us. And I think that's a big key, is that us as Keller Williams agents, we've got a plethora of information out there that we don't know about, because there's just so much stuff out there. So I'm so glad to be bringing all of this material over to everybody. I see, when your admin text, whose phone are they using? So I use Better Voicemail, or it's now called Better Voice, as a phone system, and it allows my agents to text and mask their cell phone number through an app. So they're using the number that they have on their email signatures, and so they can do not disturb that in the evening. It's not a cheap situation. You can do that. Yeah, you could use Google Voice. Google Voice will allow you to send text as well through that, and then you can mask your agents and your admins' personal cell phone numbers. That anniversary reminder is stellar. Going to use that in the 36 strips. Yeah, I'm telling you, because now in today's day and age, I mean, we can. The husband and the wife, it used to be, that's how us husbands, we took a beating for forgetting things. And now you have wives that forget because they're so busy as well. And so, pick up the phone, call the husband, pick up the phone, and then call the wife and remind them that, hey, and don't do it at the same time. Yet, call one and say, hey, reminder, and then call the other and say, hey, reminder. And so now you got 2 touches in your 36 touch. You called them each, and now neither one of them forgets their anniversary. Let's see here. I didn't realize there were so many checklists. I'm telling you, it's the only way that we can truly operate at the highest of level, because we're not using, when you're storing that stuff in your brain, you're using up, it's kind of like you ever had to restart your computer, you got ROM and you got RAM. And so I don't remember which one's which. You got one's short-term memory, one's long-term memory. And so you're using up that short-term memory, the usable, visible memory. And checklists just allow you not to have to put that up there. You can just go through and check it off, and it's done. It's so much easier. You can operate so much faster, and you go home with so much less stress because you're working through those checklists. Definitely going to take these forms and use it to build and improve. Yeah, because you can. these forms do not have to be used in paper format. And I hope that's what you're getting, is that you can do these in Google Forms. You can use, you can use them, create forms that you could put into Dotloop, and Dotloop will actually customize your forms. And so that's a cool piece there. Let's see, using Brevity, each person is assigned their own number. There you go. Let's see, my lead agent bought a cell for work. Perfect. You could technically use a burner phone for that, as Brittany Purcell calls it, the burner phone. And then, office phone is a cell, and we can use it to text. So I love that. Love that. Some good stuff there. All right. Any more ahas? We've gone over 1 minute, and I apologize about that. Any more ahas? Any other questions? Thank you so much. We'll be back here next Friday. Same bat time, same bat channel. I'll get an email out with everybody for it'll have all the forms attached to it. It'll have all of the workbook attached to it, and it will also have a recording from today's call. So all of that'll be in there as well, so that you can actually use this to help train for your 30, 60, 90. It is my pleasure, all of you. I love to be bringing this material to you because I think it's so valuable, and it hasn't been taught within the Keller Williams system in so long that I think it's time to bring it back and revive it. Hopefully one day we can get all this stuff a little bit more modernized, yet it's still, the foundation is there. It's so powerful. So thank you all. Thank you all so much. Love you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Go out there and crush it and be bold. The recording I should have out, as long as I get it back from Zoom, I should be able to get it out this evening, late tonight. So you should have it by Monday at the latest. Because I'll probably do it tonight after the kids go to bed. Okay? My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day.